I'm going to pull up my brackets here while we're waiting just to take a look. And let's see where we're at here. Doop-a-doo. Yes, Vequeth versus Ever right here. So Vequeth had beaten VM in round 1, and Ever had beaten Zero Burn, which is another Protoss Zerg victory. And we're moving right along. So Lost Temple, Vequeth is in the 12 o'clock position. Vequeth, I think it's Vequeth. Ever is going to be in the 2 o'clock position here. Mirror match. So as close as they can get. Actually, no, not as close as they can get, but back to back.
Yep, we'll definitely have to see if they get aware of each other's presence, especially fast. We might just see a gateway rush and see who can overpower the other with the number of zealots that they can build in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah. So what's you say you're typically a Protoss player. What's your normal like kind of broad strategy for going up against another Protoss player in a 1v1 type scenario?
Obviously, the 4-gate is a extremely solid, well-rounded build, and actually going in the wrong direction, both of them scouting. In this case, if I had successfully scouted my opponent and known that he was so short distance, 2 gates are ultimately extremely deadly if your opponent is trying to tech up, doing something like a 4-gate, a 3-gate robo. And can win the game extremely fast.
And Hodan, just to answer a question that I'm getting in chat right now, brings up a good question. Can he get VODs of our live streams? Yes, you can. Our live streams are all recorded by CNOME, and they are placed in our, if you go to youtube.com/screddit, that has live streams of everything. So check out there, and and that goes for everybody. Just go ahead and check that out afterwards, and it's pretty good. Should be up by the middle of the week usually.
Absolutely. CNOM doing a fantastic job recording all things SC Reddit. He was actually on the King of the Hill last night, just kind of chilling and watching everything.
And he does a great job setting that stuff up. So let's see what we got here. I really like what Vequeth is doing here, which is a nice little feint, which is that he's built all of his production in the back of his base so that when a scout finally gets in here, create one of those kind of oh crap moments because the scout comes in and doesn't see anything, and he'll immediately, let's see if he panics and starts scouting around his base. But he might think, oh my god, we've got to deal with there's a proxy going on, but no, he'll see it eventually in the back of his base. But if you're planning on going warp tech later, it doesn't matter where your production buildings are, so put them really far away and just freak your opponent out and make them think that you're proxy rushing him or something like that. It's
Absolutely.
one of those little tiny little denial of information moves that I always think is pretty neat because probably if the battle happens, it's not going to be the kind of battle that requires a wall in on the ramp or anything like that. So he can pretty much build those wherever he wants.
Vequeth now throwing down his warp gate technology. Like we said earlier, he's probably going to be doing that warp gate, that strong warp gate push, so it really doesn't matter where he has his buildings, just as long as he gets the units out.
Yeah, and he skipped zealots entirely and is going straight for stalkers, whereas it looks like the exact same thing is up for Ever. So pretty much, I've said this before. Anyone who's used to seeing my live streams when I comment on these kind of games, one of my favorite things to watch, and this disagrees with most people, is a complete and total mirror match where both players do identical builds and have identical choices throughout, and it's just a small amount of micro that wins one player over the other. And amongst those kind of games that I like watching, my favorite one is Mass Blink Stalkers by 2 Protoss. it's just kind of fun. I mean, a lot of people think that is really boring, and I would totally understand anybody who makes that argument, but at the same time, I just love it. So if this ends up going that way, I'll be fine, but it looks like Vequeth is already going for sentries instead, whereas we've got a robo facility going up forever. So we'll
right,
see.
he is building that 2-gate robo, which already he's branching off from a early identical mirror build. Ooh, we see hallucination going down on Vequeth's part. Curious to see what he's going to do with that.
Vequeth also did one of my favorite moves as a Protoss player, which is he just put a single proxy pylon just kind of out of the way, far enough away from Ever's base that he probably won't ever bump into it, but it's just there in case he needs it. And that's a kind of like a long-term decision which could really pay off during some sort of an attack or something like that. But again, he doesn't really care where he puts down his pylon, so why not just kind of scatter them around in some sort of nonchalant places?
Absolutely.
All right. Warp Gate tech kicking in for Vequeth there. He just got a big boost of stalkers.
Ryan never has an observer coming out of his robo right now, so he'll be easily able to see what kind of things are going on Vequeth's side.
Yeah, I always appreciate the robo players who go obs first, and then boom, he goes right into an immortal right after that. But it's so tempting to say, "Oh, I need my immortal right now," but just getting that single observer out can swing the entire game, depending on what you see.
Absolutely, StarCraft is often a game of information. If you don't know what your opponent's doing, you often can't counter it, and simply you'll just have the wrong unit compositions.
I like this here. This is always just a sign of a slightly more sophisticated player. He saw that scout out there that he wanted to kill, and so he just sent two stalkers to kill it. He didn't divulge his whole army when he did that. He just, just enough to kill it, and then he moves in with his whole army. Just, again, these little subtle denial of information moves that just help keep your opponent a little bit in the dark. And so now it looks like he's positioning himself for a fairly good attack with a little bit of ramp control as well with the sentries. Oh, and the hallucinated. Oh, that's good. Oh, but instantly destroyed. I think that kind of ruins the joke. If
Yeah, that was a little bit of a gap on his part. Unfortunately, I think his attack was timed a little bit too late. That immortal did get out in time, which took a significant toll on the amount of stalkers.
Yeah, that was a really smart move on his part because it looked like he almost didn't. He wasn't necessarily trying to fool him with that colossi. With that Colossus, it was more that he just wanted sight up above the cliff without having to send somebody up the ramp. So that was kind of a neat little tricky way to gain sight and be able to shoot up a cliff for a small amount of time. But so kind of stalemated there, no problem.
Vequeth now just running back to his base to build up his forces.
Yeah, more immortals coming out, and that's going to be real tricky for Vequeth. As soon as he gets into a 2 or 3 immortal type area, Twilight Council is going up, so we might see some Blink Micro. But as soon as we get a couple of immortals up, they really just destroy stalkers, and so
Absolutely, immortals doing 50 damage versus armored, actually able to 3-hit siege tanks.
The other amazing little Colossi fact, I believe hallucinated immortals, still being massive, will crush force fields. So that's another neat little trick just to kind of walk your way up through somebody's force field defenses or something.
Vequeth actually going for Zealot Charge instead of Blink, which is actually a pretty good thing because those Zealots will easily be able to take down any Immortals as they do less than 10 damage per arm swing hit.